Coming up on Network Africa. Fears of worsening Ethiopia war amid Oromia fighting. Former South African President Jacob Zuma corruption trial postponed after latest no-show. Plus, former Guinea Prime Minister Ibrahim Kassory and ex-ministers face embezzlement charges. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. We begin in Ethiopia, where continued fighting in the country's most populous region, Oromia, between government forces and the rebel Oromo Liberation Army is raising concerns of worsening insecurity in the south. The authorities in Oromia say they have launched a month-long offensive against OLA, but the rebel group says it's winning the battle. OLA spokesperson Oda Tabi says the security forces from neighboring Somali region have been deployed in Oromia to provide support in the fighting. A senior Somali regional official, Afikada Rashid, has dismissed the allegation but says forces from his region could enter Oromia if they are invited. There are fears that an escalation in fighting in the south could deepen the political and humanitarian crisis that the country is facing. And over in South Africa, hundreds of Operation Dudula members have marched through the streets of Durban, demanding that the government take strong action to deal with high numbers of illegal immigrants. The protesters sang and chanted anti-immigrant slogans under the watchful eye of the police. They then proceeded to Point Police Station, where they handed a memorandum with demands. They called for government action to address the issue of undocumented immigrants alleged to be involved in various criminal activities. Meanwhile, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has spoken out against the harassment of migrants in the country, comparing the behavior of vigilante groups to the apartheid regime's treatment of black South Africans. Frequent demonstrations have been held in recent months against undocumented migrants who are often accused of taking jobs from locals and committing crime. Last week, a Zimbabwean man was killed and burnt in an apparent mob attack in a Johannesburg township. It followed the murder of 7 South Africans in the same area. Mr. Ramaphosa criticized the fact that vigilante groups have been stopping people on the streets and forcing them to produce identification to verify their immigration status. And still in South Africa, a judge has postponed former President Jacob Zuma's corruption trial pending his appeal to the Supreme Court to have the lead prosecutor removed. The former president failed to turn up to the hearing at Pietermaritzburg Court, saying he was too ill to attend. Mr. Zuma faces multiple charges of fraud and money laundering relating to a $2 billion arms deal in the 1990s with a French company. He has denied all the charges, calling them a witch hunt by political rivals. Last July, violent protests broke out in parts of South Africa after Mr. Zuma was arrested in a separate case. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, joins us now for more. Betty, this is just one of numerous challenges that have caused long delays and postponements in this highly anticipated trial. Speak to us about this latest one. We're hearing it has to do with Mr. Zuma's health.
Thank you, Tenny. It's quite interesting when you think the former president has run out of options. He still finds ways to pull out something out of his hat in terms of delaying this trial. But in this particular case, it's not quite having to do with his health, although he wasn't in court for this court session. We understand at a briefing that was held outside the court or on the sidelines of the trial, we understand from his spokespersons that he was undergoing tests for an undisclosed illness, so he wasn't in court. But essentially, what happened in court today is a request by his team for a month's postponement, pending the finalization of his application to the Supreme Court of Appeal judge, president, that's Mandisa Maya, to look into once again or reconsider her court's refusal of his application for leave to appeal the outcome of his special plea regarding the state prosecutor, Billy Downer. During this session, his team felt that Judge Pete Cohen had no choice but to grant him that postponement. And the judge who ruled this Monday as well said that he had a right to exhaust all his appeal options and that the process automatically suspends the trial. So pending that outcome, they will have to wait. Hopefully that will be sorted out within a month, which is a month that his team had asked for the postponement.
And Betty, on the proceedings to try to remove the lead prosecutor, what exactly does Mr. Zuma have against him, especially as the Supreme Court last month rejected a bid to have the prosecutor taken off the case?
Thank you, Tenny. Well, Mr. Billy Downer, who is the state prosecutor, the request by the former president to have him removed or for him to recuse himself from that trial that he lacked didn't just start now. It started about the time the trial started. I recall the time we were in Pietermaritzburg for the commencement of that trial, and his team brought up that issue, saying that he lacked the qualification to try or to participate in that trial. It gave reasons of bias, that he cooperated with the Democratic Alliance, which is the opposition party that fought for the reinstatement of the charges against him. Remember, it was thrown out just before he became president. So at this point now, the DA went back to court, asked for the spy tapes, and it went on till the charges were reinstated. And the former president, Zuma, believes that Billy Downer, having worked with the DA on that trial, would be biased against him. Also, in October last year, former President Zuma went to the Maritzburg police station to lay criminal charges accusing Mr. Billy Downer of leaking confidential information, I think having to do with his health, in contravention of the NPO, the National Prosecution Authority Act. So there are several layers of issues that he has against him, and his fight to have him removed from the trial has dragged the case at the point where he wanted to enter the special plea. And the judge Pete Cohen had ruled that he was qualified to try the case. He went to the Supreme Court of Appeal. It was thrown out. Now he's appealing again to the Supreme Court of Appeal for Judge President Mandisa Maya to reconsider her decision.
Okay, Betty, and just before I let you go, away from the Zuma trial, speak to us about the Operation Dudula movement launched in Durban.
All right, Teddy, to give context, the Operation Dudula movement, new kid on the block, pro-South African movement, the slogan is South Africa First. They are trying to spread their tentacles, I guess, if I'll use that word, to the different provinces. So this launch in KwaZulu-Natal province should have happened around the 21st of March. But because Mr. Nhlanhla Lux Dlamini, who is their leader, was in custody at the time over an incident that happened in Dobsonville regarding the harassment a man who is a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters, and they took that case to the police and arrested him. He didn't appear in court at the time he was supposed to. So that weekend he was meant to go to KwaZulu-Natal for the launch of Operation Dudula. It couldn't happen, and they postponed it. So they're saying Dudula actually means to uproot. So they're saying they're uprooting illegal migrants in the country, uprooting the drug dealers. Sometimes the messages get twisted and incidents happen. So the president, President Cyril Ramaphosa, has condemned them, calling them a vigilante organization that will not be recognized by government. But we're hearing some ministers saying, yes, we have some of the ideas that they have, we can work with them, draw them closer and work with some of the ideas too. The narrative is mostly, many of the crimes in the country are being perpetrated by undocumented foreign migrants who don't have records in police custody. So they get away with it. Nobody knows them or nobody can trace them. That is the belief. And then some community members or community leaders were saying, Operation Dudula hijacked our march, our protests, which was about bringing sanity. But they're also going around asking people how many locals are on the employment list of organizations. Some get intimidated when there's a march. Many of the foreign nationals just close up their shops, so business doesn't happen. That affects communities as well. So it's something people are looking to government to see how government will handle it before it gets out of hand.
All right, then, Betty, thank you so much for the update. And away from South Africa, former Prime Minister of Guinea, Ibrahim Kassory, and 3 ex-cabinet members are due to face embezzlement charges before a court following their arrest last week. Mr. Kassory, the former Defense Minister, ex-Environment Minister, and former Hydrocarbons Minister are to appear at the Court of Repression of Economic and Financial Offences. They were detained on Wednesday last week on charges of embezzling public funds after 3 days of questioning. Mr. Kassory served as Prime Minister from 2018 until Prime Minister Alpha Conde was overthrown in a military coup last September. The ruling military has pledged to fight corruption and not launch a witch hunt against prominent figures in the deposed regime. In March, the authorities demolished the home of former Prime Minister Cellou Diallo after accusing him of building houses on public land. And over 1,000 Tunisians rallied in the capital, Tunis, over the weekend, calling for an end to what they describe as an ongoing power grab from their president, Kais Saied. The protest was organized by a movement named Citizens Against Coup, along with the Islamic-inspired Ennahda Party, which has dominated Tunisia's post-revolution politics and the recent dissolved parliament.
Tunisians protested against President Kais Saied, accusing him of imposing one-man rule in the North African country after he dissolved parliament last month. A political crisis in the country intensified last month when more than half of the members of parliament held an online session to revoke Saied's decrees.
I think that Kais Saied has become the problem, and dialogue should take place with all other bodies in order to stop the populist advance Kais said is carrying out.
Many members of parliament participated in the protest, which took place with a heavy presence of anti-riot police. After last month's online session, which Saied dissolved, anti-terrorism police summoned the main opposition figure, Rachid Ghannouchi, and other lawmakers for questioning, prompting criticism from abroad as well as at home. Ghannouchi, who is the parliament speaker and head of Islamist Ennahda Party, said other virtual sessions will be convened. A delegation from the European Parliament will visit Tunisia on Monday to urge the return of democracy established after the 2011 revolution that ended the autocratic rule of late President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. Sii took control of executive power in the middle of last year and has ruled by decree, which his opponents describe as a coup.
This also come on the program. Congolese city turns its plastic problem into profit. We'll tell you how in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. To the war in Ukraine, there have been reports of profiling and detention of Nigerians and other Africans in Poland detention centres, something the Nigerian government, through the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, has condemned. This was stated by the Commission's chairman, Abike Dabiri Erewa, at the Psychosocial Trauma Clinic for Ukraine returnees, organised in partnership with the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons and Project Victory Call Initiative in Abuja. She says that through President Muhammadu Buhari, though President Muhammadu Buhari had made every necessary arrangements for Nigerians caught up in the war in Ukraine to return home, some chose to remain in some countries like Poland, stressing that the most appropriate action for Poland to take was to return them back to their countries rather than keep them in torturous detention centres.
Now, I know that as I speak with you, there's another crisis brewing. Some of the returnees who went to Poland. Now, there were some Nigerians, when they got to Poland, Romania, Hungary, they didn't want to come back. I was saying this, it's voluntary. But some who went to Poland and refused to come back and are not properly documented are now locked up in detention centers under very inhumane condition. Now, they are being locked up in detention centers because of the color of their skin. The whites are not being locked up in detention centers, but blacks that are in Poland are being arrested. They will tell you you don't have a documentation, although you are a refugee that freed from Ukraine, and they are being locked up in very terrible circumstances in detention centers in Poland. This is unacceptable. Everybody should reject it and tell the Polish authorities, release those you put in detention centers. The worst you can do is send them back to their countries. Although we as Nigeria, thanks to President Buhari, gave everybody the opportunity to return.
I'd just like to encourage the recipients of these services to take advantage of it. It's available for you. You know, in Nigeria, when we talk about mental health, we think somebody is at low. But mental health means that you want to just address some issues, things are going around your head, so that you know that you're not alone and you have support and you just discuss things that are happening in your life with people. So we're here to support you 100%. I'm looking forward to the success of this program and to future collaborations with the PVC platform, and I welcome you all today.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian ambassador to Poland, Ambassador Christian Ugu, says the federal government did all it could to help evacuate Nigerians fleeing the war in Ukraine, but that some Nigerians chose to avoid contact with the Nigerian mission in Warsaw, and some may have ended up in detention camps in the country. Ambassador Ugu says there were initially 16 Nigerians known to the embassy in detention, 10 of whom have been released, while the other 6 are being attended to. He says he's confident that they will be released soon.
I want to say that some people were put in detention by the Polish government, African, nationals. Nigerians among them were 19 in number. And when the embassy followed it up, 13 of them were released, remaining 6. And these 6 have critical issues that need to resolve by the Polish judicial system, which we are still following it up till now. As I said earlier on, that there were 19, 13 have been released. But these few 6 that are remaining, I hope with time, they are going to be released. And I want to use this opportunity to, make it clear that it is better Those that are talking that, the embassy is not doing anything, they should ask questions so that we'll be able to explain. Among these over 500 and something that disappeared, we're still going to have serious problem at hand because the Polish people, they don't compromise their immigration laws at all.
And to politics back here in Nigeria, after weeks of speculations and expectations, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has joined the race to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari next year. In a video released earlier today, Professor Osinbajo says his decision to join the race is born out of the experience he has garnered in the last 7 years as a nation's #2 citizen. He says he understands the hopes, fears and aspirations of Nigerians.
I have served as Vice President under a true Nigerian patriot, a servant of the nation in war and peace, and a man of integrity, President Muhammadu Buhari. We have, together, worked through some of the most difficult times in the history of our nation. But we have remained focused on securing the country, on providing infrastructure, and growing our economy. As stipulated by the Nigerian Constitution, our tenure will end next year. I've been to practically all local governments in Nigeria. I've been in markets, in factories, in schools, and farms. I've been in agricultural, mining, and oil-producing communities, in the Delta, in Kebbi, in Enugu, in Borno, in Rivers, in Plateau and Ondo, and in all other states of the Federation, listening to the diverse experiences and yearnings of our people. I've visited our gallant troops in the Northeast and our brothers and sisters in the IDP camps. I've felt the pain and anguish of victims in violent conflicts, terrorist attacks, flooding, fire, and other disasters. I've been in the homes of many ordinary Nigerians in various parts of the country. I have sat with our techpreneurs in Lagos, Edo, and Kaduna, with our Nollywood and Kannywood actors, with our musicians from Lagos, Onitsha, and Kano, and I've spoken to small and large businesses. I believe that the very reason why the Almighty God gave me these experiences, these insights, and these opportunities is that they must be put to the use of our country and its great peoples. Which is why I am today, with utmost humility, formally declaring my intention to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of our great party, the All Progressives Congress.
And finally on the program, over in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Bukavu, thousands of plastic bottles thrown into the Ruzizi River routinely clog the power station, shutting it down for months at a time and pushing the city into blackouts. But for Eli Matabaro, this problem is an advantage, allowing him to both make money and create jobs for young people. Take a look.
Mapenzi lives in Bukavu, located in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Thousands of plastic bottles are thrown into the Ruzizi River there, clogging the city's hydropower station's turbines and shutting it down for months at a time. But for Mapenzi, the city's plastic problem is an asset. His company, FDA Group, transforms the bottles and other city waste into cheap, hard-wearing paving slabs that grace driveways and forecourts across the city.
Nous sommes en train de travailler dans la ville de Bukavu où jadis il n'y avait aucun système de gestion des déchets préétabli et nous sommes en train de contribuer pour qu'on puisse implanter un bon système de gestion des déchets, contribuer à rendre propre et assainir la ville de Bukavu en premier lieu et assainir les lacs Kivu et la rivière Ruzizi en deuxième lieu.
Every day, Mapenzi's trash collectors deposit mountains of plastic at the factory. It is then melted down and scrapped into hexagonal metal molds. Once cool, It is taped out, piled high and sold to customers who say it is cheaper and easier to clean than cement slabs. Bukavu has no proper dump for its 1.6 million residents.
Nous sommes conscients que les déchets de la ville de Bukavu, une ville qui a environ 1,6 million habitants et qui produit 600 tonnes de déchets par jour, mais qui n'a pas un dépotoir approprié et où la population n'est pas très consciente des conséquences de son comportement, il y a beaucoup de défis à relever, nous en sommes conscients, mais nous y travaillons.
The United Nations Environment Programme estimates that 70 to 80% of municipal waste across the continent is recyclable, but only 4% is.
And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale.